Well, blessed Friday to you as we come with your daily encouragement. And we are on the eve of celebrating the martyrdom of Saints Peter and Paul. Or should I say, the ministry of them that led to not just their death, but their anticipation to resurrection, the founding of the church in Rome, if not the church around the world. When we celebrate the celebration of both Peter and Paul, we remember that they died in Rome. And that was the center of power, but that was also the center of what would be the worldwide establishment of a church. It was not going to be just localized to Jerusalem or Antioch. It was going to be a worldwide thing. And so, both Peter and Paul are not just establishing a church in one place by being in Rome, they are establishing a church around the world. Now, I'm going to spend time on Peter today. On Monday, I'll spend time on Paul. I'm going to be doing this as kind of a highlight of what I'll be preaching on Sunday, which is that Peter represents the confessional side of the church, and Paul represents the theological side of the church. And that both are necessary for a good and blessed church to exist, a balanced church, so to speak. And so I'm getting this outline from Bishop Robert Barron. He is the bishop of the Winona Rochester Diocese of here in Minnesota, but he's nationally known and internationally known as a good representative. And I thought he had a wonderful two-part message about the confessional side and the theological side of the church. But let's talk about Peter being a confessor. He was the one that was called to proclaim Jesus as Lord. He was the first one to proclaim Jesus as Lord. In fact, Jesus said that in his blessing of Peter. Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. For heaven and earth, earth has, wisdom has not given you this insight, but heaven, the Spirit has given you this insight that I am Lord. And as a confessor, he is called to proclaim the gospel. Of course, unfortunately, he did that sporadically. Sometimes he would shy away from that when he denied Jesus 3 times. But in John chapter 21, we get his commissioning to go wherever Jesus has called to proclaim the gospel. It says in John 21, when they, the apostles and Simon Peter, had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? And he said to him, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said to him, Feed my lambs. A second time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And he said to him, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said to him, Tend my sheep. He then said a third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter felt hurt because he had said a third time, Do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Jesus said to him, Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and go wherever you wished. But when you have grown old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not want to go. He said this to indicate the kind of death which he would glorify God. And he said to him, Follow me. Now, the theme of following comes to every disciple. It will come to both Paul and it will come to Peter. And we are asked in this passage to consider what it means to follow Jesus, even to places that we do not, quote unquote, choose to go. I know earlier in my life I spent time as a missionary, brief period of time, going to Europe. And I always told people, I'd say, well, it's only Europe, it's not Africa. But then when I heard stories about Africa, I'd hear people sound so enthusiastic about it, it made me want to go. But it wasn't about my desire. That was the essence of being called to another place. It was the command of the Lord. And when I would look at different places that I like to go, nothing came about until I heard a very strong impression and just circumstances started to lead me into the direction of Slovakia. Now, I only mention that not to elevate my situation, but just to tell you that where we want to go, whether it be in country or out of country, whether it be a specific church we belong to or one we want to belong to, we need to first ask the question, what does the Lord want me to do? Now, for many of us, we probably have already made decisions that have set our life in motion. But I know when we reach a critical decision, like should I say the death of a spouse or someone nearby, or we have a change in economic or life circumstances, many people are put in that position where they had to reevaluate and ask the question again, Lord, where do you want me to go? And that's the proper question. It is, we hope to say, that the Lord's vision of where we want to go congrues with our vision of where we want to go. But the first question is not one of desire, not one that we have the freedom to do, and we have the political freedom, we should celebrate that. But the first question needs to be the one with whom even our free country officially submits to. It says in our coins, in God we trust. And so, with all the political freedom to go wherever we want to go, to be whoever we want to be, the first question, and Peter being the confessor of this, asks the question, where does God want me to go? And to whom does God want me to do ministry? Jesus told both Peter and Paul, feed my sheep. And so for Peter, he started with his own Jewish kin, and then through the vision of God, through Acts chapter 10, Peter also goes to the Gentiles. We have to remember that Peter doesn't just represent the Jews, he represents all the different people. Because the center of his confession is not based on what ethnic group you belong to. It's based on the commission of Jesus Christ. Where has God called me to do? Stretch out my hands and let God tie the rope and guide me to where I need to be. Of course, it ends with Peter's most famous death. According to tradition, he was crucified upside down. We don't know exactly if that was true or not, but we do know that Peter had to make a decision on martyrdom. When he denied Jesus 3 times, he was trying to escape death. He was trying to escape getting into trouble. There is the story, it's called the Quo Vadis story, where Peter was leaving Rome, and on the way out of Rome, he saw Jesus walking to Rome. And Jesus asked Peter the question, Quo Vadis, where are you going? And the people of God had sent Peter out to keep him safe. But then he followed Jesus back into town, where he was martyred. And that's the question we have to ask. Are we going to go where Jesus calls us to do? Are we going to confess the message to those whom Jesus has called us to confess? Are we going to love as Jesus loves? And that, my friends, is how we become a confessor, a follower of Jesus. God bless you today. We trust that these are words of encouragement. See you Sunday, and we'll see you Monday as we're back in our Bible study again. Take care. God bless.